Okay, so one of the games that I've enjoyed most in my life has been Fable. This game is kind of unlike anything else that I've seen, especially in an AAA development like game where it's like mainstream, where it's very grounded in a kind of fun, chill, relaxed vibe whilst having a good RPG story associated with it. And I'm really hoping that the soul of Fable, for those that I know what I'm talking about, really is retained, because that is what made this game special. If I look at like anything specific about this game, like the combat, we could say like, it's subpar relative to other games, but it doesn't really matter that much. We could look at the art style and say, there's other games with better graphics. And we could look at the story and say like, okay, it's got a good story, fine, like fair enough, it does. But like some of the characters weren't developed as much as they could have been. We could look at the mechanics within the game. For example, as you go through the story, you can buy property. That really I enjoyed a lot, by the way. I thought it was really cool. Like that you could buy like the city. I thought that was amazing. But anyway, like not only that, but like a lot of the other mechanics in the game, like as you progress through the story, essentially without spoiling things would age, right? Like that was a relatively new idea, and I don't think it's been repeated in many other, especially AAA titles, right? So that kind of stuff, like to me, it has been groundbreaking in different ways, the Fable series. And again, like the soul factor, like the charm of it is something that I haven't seen replicated much in video games either. Most games are very grounded in reality, or they're like absurdist, or they're mechanically good. But there's very few that try to be like, I don't know how other way to say it other than fantastical in terms of the universe in the game. And it does with that have a slight problem of it not wanting to push the boundary too far and make certain jokes, or, you know, kind of like you would think of like The Simpsons or something like that, where it does have that barrier to it that's kind of like set in stone. But to be fair, even in games where that would be part of the universe for there to be more like questionable stuff in it, generally speaking, game devs generally stray away from that stuff regardless. It's very rare that you'll see like a very controversial game or anything that's like even slightly jabby. For example, like in the RPG situation, we got something like Mass Effect, where like there's some things that are questionable, like the ability for you to like essentially suppress the Krogans. And so within Fable, I really think that they do have trouble like really pushing it to that area, and they do try to keep things pretty safe. But that's okay, because again, a lot of other games do that too, but they're just not as expressly like open with it in terms of the theme of the game, the fantastical nature of the game within other games, the fantasy style of the game isn't really there in a lot of other games too. Again, in this game there are abilities that make absolutely no sense, and I think it would be fair to say that magic exists in the game in a way that seems unmoored from reality and not really even explained by lore. There's no reason why magic exists. At least if you look at the Elder Scrolls series, there's like some ideas behind it, and it is explained in some ways. And again, within Fable, I kind of like that charm. I like that. I also like the setting. I think that the British actors within the Fable franchise generally did a really good job with the acting. And so that kind of leads me to this new Fable, which is bringing it into 2022. Because of course, it's been a long time since the last one, and a lot of things have changed in terms of game potential. And so we really could see with Fable 4 now, the new one, a better game engine, maybe even on something like, I guess they wouldn't do Unreal Engine 5 because that's owned by Epic Games, and I guess they're kind of rivals of the Microsoft Store. Yeah, apparently they're going to be using, funnily enough, they're going to be using the Forza game engine for Fable 4, which kind of tells you a bit about the state of the Microsoft like world in terms of like the Microsoft ecosystem, in terms of like the engines they have to work with, that they have to resort to a Forza game engine. I thought that was kind of interesting. Now I've actually gone through and I've watched a bunch of the Forza Horizon 5 cutscenes. I have of course as well played the game before, and I did kind of want to talk about how the facial animations and the body languages of the Forza Horizon engine, because it can kind of give us an idea of how capable the game engine is. And from the cutscenes I can say with certainty that it is very capable in terms of animation. My concern slightly is that the facial expression doesn't have much like going for it. It doesn't really show that much relative to other games. And that's not a disaster, and it's something you can get away with good body language animations. But it is definitely something to keep in mind. Especially with an RPG, ideally really you want good facial animations, which again the Forza Horizon game definitely did not have. Half the time they're literally wearing masks or they're not looking at their faces, so you don't have to see those facial animations, which, to be honest, in Forza Horizon are pretty bad. So that does definitely have me a little bit concerned. There's some other stuff that we do definitely know as well. And this is all going to be based on a leaked thing that we had several years ago on a brief that people got for Fallout 4. And it talked about a few different things from, again, 3 years ago. So this game has been like in development essentially for 3 years now, by the way. Probably going to be a few more years until it's been released. Unfortunately, we're probably looking at 2023, maybe 2024, probably 2023 though. And here's a list of things that they talked about. First off, it's going to be a first and third person game, so you can pick, and maybe it'll depend on the scenario. Guns are no longer a thing in Fable. So it will be bows and arrows, spears, and of course magic in the game as well. It's also very possible to ignore the main quest line if you want to, apparently. And players can build towns. Apparently there will be multiplayer content. And I guess that's again because it's relying on the Forza 5 engine, which does have a lot of good multiplayer capability with it. Now back then they originally said that the game was going to be built on Unreal Engine, but of course since then they've obviously changed their mind. And in this game presentation behind closed doors as well, they did also say that time travel is going to be a feature, and we have no idea if that's going to actually happen, but that is the leak that we got. And it's like we're relatively certain that the leak was real. But of course this was again 3 years ago, perhaps even longer than 3 years ago now. Now of course on the 12th, in 4 weeks, we are going to find out a bunch of extra information. And in fact, it's less than 4 weeks now. Likely at E3. Last year we had a trailer which was kind of like a fun trailer, which didn't really show any gameplay or really talk about much of anything, to be honest. It was more just of a hype and announcement. Now this year we are expecting a little bit more information. And again, it might be that it's another year on top of 2023, so it might be 2024 this is released. But we do know that it's been in full production for at least a year now. We even saw job postings in like February 2021, which again was a year and a half ago. So we're definitely expecting to hear something. It might not be until next year that we get like full gameplay and everything, but we are definitely expecting to see some stuff for Fable for this year. Now I would be interested to hear, and I'm sure everyone else would be, about what are you looking forward to Fable. So feel free to leave your thoughts and feelings in the comments about Fable. And if you've watched this much of the video, you very much would like my channel in general, which is very RPG focused, talking about upcoming RPGs. So feel free to follow the channel, subscribe. I'm gonna leave you guys until next time. Have a great day. I'm out. GG. Bye bye.